Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab another piece out here, fresh piece. About that big. And I'm actually just moving on to the other leg on the lower half. I did not reheat my sugar. This is just, it really holds its heat for a long time. So usually I don't have to reheat it when I'm using the paste method. Sometimes, you know, if I'm doing a lot of sugar, maybe after like 40 minutes or something, it might need a few more seconds. And it also depends on your preference. Some people like it to go on warmer, a little bit softer and warmer in the beginning, just because it does feel a little nicer. It doesn't pull the hair as much. And other people just prefer to start with it firm so that they have a little more control of it and can get the flick easier. It's easier to flick it when it's not as melty. One thing I'll point out is that my hand is applying the sugar more perpendicular. I'm not putting it flat like this. A lot of people do that and it just adds way too much heat to the sugar and will just melt it and make a lot bigger mess. So just keep your fingers perpendicular. I'll give you more control. And while you're putting it on, if you feel like it hurts because it's pulling some of the hairs, the best thing to do is just go slower. Slow down, and by slowing down, usually it stops any hair pulling. And that's good to keep in mind if you're sugaring somebody else too. If you notice them kind of cringing or flinching while you're applying the sugar, like that part should definitely not hurt. The only part that should hurt is when you're flicking it off. And so if they're feeling pain while you're applying it, it's just unnecessary pain. So just go a little slower, and that'll cut down any of that discomfort of the pulling sensation. So this video might look a little different as far as the lighting. I'm actually in front of the window, just trying to use a little more natural light for this video. So I thought it might help the hair show up more. I'm not sure, but I thought I'd give it a try. I actually went outside to try to do the video out on the porch, and I'm in Florida and the humidity was just a little bit too much. It actually started fogging up the lens of the camera pretty fast. So I was like, uh-oh, it's not gonna work to do it outside. Okay. Try to get the angle for the back of my leg. So I'm actually going to go swimming after this, and that is one way to get any of the sticky residue off the skin. You know, a lot of times I just say jump in the shower, but if you have a swimming pool, that might be a fun way to just end your sugaring session. Reward yourself for getting through the sugaring. and it'll get rid of any of that sugar residue. It'll just dissolve right off, which is awesome, because with waxing, waxing is a lot harder to get off the skin because it's not water soluble. So that's one thing I do really appreciate about the sugar, is that it's water soluble. It makes the cleanup so easy. So you can tell I'm like really holding the skin tight with with the second hand. And you really want to utilize that helper hand to hold the skin tight. It'll make such a difference with how much hair comes out. It'll also hurt less. So just definitely make sure you're utilizing that helper hand to tighten the skin. One thing too, by pulling the skin tight, it helps me see that area a little bit better that's behind my leg. Kind of pulls it to the front. Okay, so another way to tighten the skin is just to stretch the leg out. So that will tighten the area behind the leg. Okay, let's see if there's more hair on this side. Yeah, my piece of sugar, I can tell, is starting to get to the point where it'll be nice to get a fresh piece. And part of the reason is because I had let my hair grow in so long. So I'm going through a little more sugar today because they're just the hair length. That extra long hair is getting all mixed into the sugar, and it just starts to lose its stickiness. And I can tell it's even getting a little bit harder to flick it off, like it's just getting that little bit not quite as workable. I'm still able to work with it, but it's not coming off quite as easily. So those are little signs that, you know, your sugar ball is getting to the end of its effective use. So one thing I'm noticing, it's hard to see it on the camera because it's such a small detail, but I'm noticing that when I apply the sugar like 3 to 4 times, I actually am not seeing any leftover hair. But when I just did like 1 or 2 times, sometimes I'll see like a random 1 or 2 hairs left over. So that is one of the reasons of the molding. Just take your time molding. 3 or 4 times is kind of recommended on these larger areas, and you will notice that you'll get more hair out if you just take your time to mold that couple extra times. At least 3 times. This one I just did 4 times. And it grabbed all the hair, so that's good. So this was that spot that I kind of got stuck on the other leg too. Kind of a tricky spot with the angles here. So I'm just going to make sure to hold the skin tight, flick it off. Okay, so good time for a fresh piece of sugar.